Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, or Tiger Tank 12, however you wanna call me, I don't really care. And look at this skybox, or this garage, if you wanna be a little bit more specific. This actually is not a garage, this is an open space, and I think it is supposed to be a Scandinavian country. As you can see, the auroras in the back, very, very nicely done. And right over here, of course, you're gonna have a KV2 made out of snow and a Christmas tree, just to underline the atmosphere of Christmas time and getting that Christmas spirit into our blood. So yeah, you can see my Christmas tree, and this is one of the new things that Wargaming have just released. This is a Christmas tree where you have different missions. If you complete them, you get like ornaments and all that kind of stuff. A little bit of decorations that you can put on your tree, and it looks actually very nice. I think I'm gonna make a screenshot and keep this in my World of Tanks folder, just to keep reminding me of that. But today we're not gonna be talking about the Christmas decoration or that beautiful train that's rolling right through there, or this little town that we're in. Today we're gonna be talking about the T44-100. This tank has been on sale for 2 days now. It has been in the advent calendar, and I'm going to be covering this tank today because I have owned this vehicle for quite a while now. Never actually made a video about it, and I have not played it a lot. I can tell you guys, I'm not the very best T44-100 driver, I've noticed. Although I have been a very, very big fan of the T44. This is one of my favorite tanks of all time. And I am desperately hoping that Wargaming is going to turn this into a HD model very soon. I hope they'll do that, and I am very stoked. Also, my clan, the campaign has just finished. A lot of my clan members are picking up the reward tanks, so I'm a little bit jealous of them because I did not have the time to play with them because of the time difference, and I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning because I need my sleep. So yeah, some of them are picking up Object 907s and all that good stuff. So I'm missing out on that, unfortunately. But let's get started. You can see we already have 3 tanks selected in the tank carousel that actually is implemented in the game. And today we're going to be comparing these 3 tanks, the T44, the T44-100, and the T54 Mod 1. And as always, first of all, I actually forgot one moment. First of all, let us admire the beauty of this vehicle. This is a T44 with an upgraded turret and with side skirts to protect this tank from, I think, small arms fire, and just to add some more protection from smaller rounds. You can see the exhaust port right here. They just cut a little opening in there, and it is a very nice tank model. Definitely looks very, very pretty, but the looks are not that important, at least in this game. So let's jump to the comparison right now. First thing that we're going to be looking at is the firepower, and of course we're going to be comparing the T44-100, the T54 Mod 1, and the T44. The very first thing is that you will notice is that the T44 and the T44-100, well, they have the same amount of points for firepower. That is because they're running the same armament as is the T54 Mod 1. The only difference, though, is that both of these tanks, the T44 and T44-100, whatever, have a much better turret traverse speed, or at least, I mean, 41 degrees per second is already quite good, but 50 degrees per second is very, very good. It's very nice. You'll never get outmaneuvered with this vehicle or with the T44. Now, the rate of fire on the T54 Mod 1 is a little bit better than on the T44, or on both the models, and the reload time, of course, is a little bit better because of the rate of fire. Now, what you have to think about right here is the ammo capacity, which is not shown in this graph. The T44 and the T44-100 both can carry a lot more rounds. You can see over here, we have 39 AP rounds, 13 APCR, and 4 HE rounds, right? If you look at the T44, we also have 37 AP rounds and 19 APCR rounds. If you take a look at the T44 Mod 1, you only have 25 AP rounds, 6 APCR rounds, and 3 HE rounds. Now, if you compare that to the other tanks, that is a lot less ammunition. And that also shows in the DPM of the tank. This tank might have a better reload time, just a very, very small fraction. It's 0.1 round per minute more, so it doesn't really matter that much. But this tank, obviously, with the DPM of 1956 per minute, is a little bit better than the T44-100 and the T44. But the problem is that you're only carrying that amount of ammunition. I think it's altogether you're going to be rolling with 34 rounds, while the T44 is equipped with 49, 52, 56 rounds. And that is a big difference. There's a difference. I mean, if you look at 34 and 56 rounds, well, there's a difference of 22 rounds, and that is very crucial. Or in certain situations, it can be very crucial, especially if you're last tank standing and you only have 5 rounds left in your T54 Mod 1, or if you have 20 rounds left in your T44. Now, let's continue. The gun depression on the 44, or on both 44s, is better than the Mod 1 in elevation and gun depression, -7 degrees. Now, it's just 1 degree, but 1 degree can be a big difference from, 6 degrees or 7 degrees gun depression. That can be a big difference. The aim time here, though, is the best on the T44, while the T54 Mod 1 has an aim time of 2.3 seconds, where it is the worst. Also, the dispersion is the best on the 44s, so pretty much the 44s take this category for themselves, although they're all very similar. The only big difference is the ammo capacity that all the 3 tanks vary from. So the survivability, now this is where it gets interesting, right? Because the T54 Mod 1 does have the best hull and turret armor. If you look at the hull armor with 120 millimeters on the front, which is 30 millimeters thicker than the T44-100 and 15 millimeters thicker than the side armor of that tank. On the rear, they're all the same, but that is why the T44 gets 50 more HP than the T54 or the T44 standard. Now, that is not a big difference. 50 HP, it might save your life from time to time, but it's not that huge of a difference. Now, the turret armor on the rear, which is weird, is a lot better on the T44 and the 100, with 25 millimeters thicker steel armor, and it is weaker on the side, and also the front is really weak with only 120 millimeters, which pretty much resonates with the 120 millimeters that the T44 has. So this tank, although it does have better armor than the T44 with well, actually no, it's exactly the same amount of armor. Excuse me, I just got that completely wrong, I think. It does not have the same amount of armor as the T54 Mod 1. This tank does have some side skirts added to it, so heat rounds will not go through it as easily. It's just some added, what do you call it, spaced armor, and also the side armor on the turret that's a little bit thicker, which is kind of weird that this tank is not that much better than the T44. So the mobility, though, on the other hand, is a big plus on this tank, since it, well, the weight is almost identical to all 3 of them. The engine power is the best on the T44, but the speed is the best on the T44-100, with 52 kilometers per hour going forward and 20 kilometers per hour in reverse. Now the traverse speed is the best on the T44-100 as well, with 53.19 degrees per second. Being able to turn your tank is really important, and this tank gives you pretty much that and a very good turret traverse speed, so you'll never be outflanked. Concealment though is not the best because I do not have a camo on it yet, so it doesn't really matter, and spotting is the best on the T44. So if we recap all the statistics that we've seen right there, we can pretty much already tell that all the tanks are very, very similar. Also, from the statistics, they don't vary too much. The big difference on the T54 and the T44-100 is that this tank is better armored. It does have less rounds. Its gun, well, it does have a faster fire rate, but it does not have the same gun handling as the T44 has. But it is slower. Mobility-wise, T44-100 is a lot better. Also, one of the things that Wargaming do not show in the comparison app or in any of the statistics is the ground resistance that is actually implemented and shown on some certain websites. I'm not on those websites, so I don't really know too much about where they show it, but I've seen a lot of videos. I've heard a lot of things about people that have taken a look at the ground resistance, and the ground resistance on the T44-100 is actually the best. That is why this tank is getting around fairly good, and it does have the best grip with the tracks actually. So that is one thing to keep in mind. So I think that should wrap up all the statistics and the comparison to these three tanks. Let's jump into some action. So the game that I've prepared for you guys is on the map Lakeville, and actually I've started to play Encounter and Assault again after having switched it off for at least 2 years. I think I turned it off when it came out. Was not a big fan of it because in my opinion, if you had a unbalanced team, Encounter and Assault were just that much more frustrating, especially Assault where you only have 10 minutes. But I decided to put it back in and try it out again, and as you can see, the very first game that we had was on Encounter. Well, I played this tank for a little while. Actually, I unlocked it, like, I think I already said that, but just to prove my point, I unlocked this tank back in the summer when the event was going on. I almost got every nation except for one, I think, and I had to pay like $8 and I got this tank. This vehicle right now, just alone, costs, I think, about $50, and that is super expensive. That is one of the things that we'll have to keep in mind if this tank is worth it. The price tag is very, very big. $55 for a tier 8 vehicle without any premium gold or etc. Just a tank with a crew which has 55% skill rating. Yeah, so let's get back to the tank and to the gameplay. So we're playing Lakeville, and I decided to play a little bit more aggressively since I do have some support in the back. And you can see right here, this tank does have the nice DPM of the Soviet medium tanks, or at least what you are expecting of the Soviet medium tanks. This tank has a reload time of 6.9 seconds, and you can see with the 183 millimeters of pen, you'll be able to deal a lot of damage to most of the tier 8 tanks, heavy tanks included. You can see that the T-34 with its 120 millimeter gun has no trouble penetrating us, and that is one of the things that I've realized very, very early on in the game. This tank does not have the same armor capacity as the T-54 prototype does have. The T-54 prototype is a vehicle that really excels with the added armor, while this tank has a 90 millimeter frontal plate, and that is just not enough. It's pretty much a T44, which is a premium and has some extra side armor, which is very, very Nice. Well, it has some spaced armor right there. You can see with the accuracy, this tank is not all too bad. It does have the best aim time of all the Soviet premium medium tanks, and also for the T44 standard version. You can see right here, this tank allows you with its mobility to get around really quickly. I only have 76 HP left, and that is one of the things that you need to consider in this tank. 1350 HP, well, it is a medium tank. Do not get hit too many times. Especially the turret is a big weak spot for this tank. If you look at the DPM though, you're able to do a lot of damage still. If you're able to penetrate them, and you can see we can penetrate the Löwe right there, and I think we are right now at a point where we have dealt about 2000 damage, or almost 2000 damage. Unfortunately, the mods and the counter on the left side do not work right now. I think there's only the replays, and it's a little bit weird, but that doesn't really matter. And right here you can see the nice aim time that this tank has. Now, one of the things that I need to say is that this tank is a tier 8 medium tank. It is Soviet, typically Soviet. It's like a brawling medium tank, and it is also not too bad in sniper mode. The accuracy is not too bad. It's obviously not the same accuracy as a SDA2 or a CDC, but with the mobility, with the added side armor that you have, you'll have a little bit of better protection against lower tier tanks, but same tier tanks will still be able to go through you like your standard T44. Now, if you enjoy playing Soviet medium tanks, this vehicle will probably feel just like all the others. It has a very small profile. The gun is handling especially like any other Soviet gun. They're quite reliable, but they do not tend to do a lot of damage. The turret, unfortunately, is not as strong as the other Soviet tanks usually tend to have. This turret is unfortunately not the same caliber, only 120mm on the front. And the side and frontal armor is also not that impressive. Against lower tier targets, it does prove to be quite effective, especially on the added turret armor here on the side and also on the side skirts. But the frontal plate right here is still not thick enough. Some tier 6 tanks will go through your lower plate. Tier 7 vehicles, a lot of them can penetrate your frontal plate. For example, almost all the tank destroyers. But that is not the main reason you play this tank. The main reason you play a T44-100 is because you enjoy the mobility of the Soviet medium tanks with a punchy gun. Of course, you do not have the best armor, but it does have a little upgrade at least against heat rounds and against some rounds on the side. Now, it's not going to be an instant bounce, or it's not going to be as sturdy as the T54 prototype. I'm sorry that we always have to compare it to the T54 prototype, but the T54 prototype is pretty much the tank that comes closest to it. But it does have definitely more ammo than the T54 prototype. But we have to keep in mind that the T54 prototype earns a lot more, well, has less ammo and is less expensive. I think the T34 prototype, if I recall, is $35, while this vehicle costs $55 right now. But obviously some of you managed to pick it up back in the days when it was in that event. And if you haven't managed to pick it up and you want to pick it up right now, it is a vehicle that is just like the T44. In my opinion, it's very mobile. It gets its stuff done. I really enjoyed the T44, but it does not have the armor capacity or capability that the T54 prototype has. So do not get this tank mixed up with the T54 prototype. This is not a mix between a T54 prototype and a T44. This is pretty much a standard premium T44, which has some better ground resistance stats, is a little bit faster even, and maybe has a little bit of a added bonus with the side skirts here. But still, other than that, it is just like the T44. The frontal armor on the hull is really low with 120 millimeters thick. This is just absolutely nothing. 90 millimeters in the front. And at the first glance, I thought I was mistaken, but it pretty much proved that this tank was not the medium tank that had the armor like the T54. But it's still a good tank. But is it worth $55? That is the next question. Well, at least for me, $55, I would never pay that for a T44, which is a premium tank. That is too much money. That brings me back to the point where Wargaming is charging too much for tanks, and this advent calendar obviously is showing just how profitable this month is for Wargaming. They are selling a lot of stuff, people are buying, I myself included, but still nonetheless some of the tanks are too expensive. $55 for a tier 8 medium tank, where you can get other tier 8 medium tanks which have very similar characteristics, maybe are faster, do not have the same amount of armor, like the CDC, are like $35. And that CDC is an amazing tank. The T54 prototype also is cheaper, and the credit making capacity, I think this tank is a little bit better. I think of this game where I dealt 3,000 damage, I think 100,000 credits, which is not too bad with premium. I have premium time right now, and I think that's quite good. But still, you can make, I think, just as much money if you take the T54. It does have less ammo, but it's less expensive. And if you want armor, you have more armor on that vehicle. If you want to get a faster premium tank, which is less expensive, get the AMX CDC. I think this tank, in a sale when it was, like, for example, in the mission, during the mission phase, when you had the opportunity to play and, you know, get it through playing the game, I think that was worth it, but it's not worth $50. So that's my final verdict, pretty much. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, as always, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.